We know the fourth commandment, honor your father and your mother. And we know those words of Christ, love one another even as I have loved you. And we come here today and we hear these words of Jesus, whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, cannot be my disciple. Has Jesus gone insane? What is going on here? How do we put together the fact that we're to honor and love one another? And yet today our Lord says, hate father, mother, children. How do we deal with this in our lives? We can reconcile this event with something that took place on September 8th, 2001 at the U.S. Open tennis tournament. For the first time in the history of the event, two sisters found themselves face to face with one another at the championship. Sisters who had grown up together, sisters who lived in the same house, sisters who, when they traveled, stayed in the same hotel room. And yet here they found themselves face to face with one another on the tennis court. And we can even bring this scenario closer to home. At the 8 o'clock Mass on Sunday mornings, Barry and Shar Gillis sit in the second pew. And during the football season, Shar wears a Viking jacket and Barry wears a Green Bay Packer jacket. Do you wonder what goes on in that home when they're playing against each other? How much hate must there be? Is that what our Lord is talking about? And of course, we know the outcome of that tennis match. Venus won. She was the champion. But instead of taking her victory lap like most champions of the tennis course do, Venus went up to the net and she hugged her sister and she said, I love you. I love you as a sister. In other words, I'm sorry, but I had to do it. And isn't that with any sport? We have to have one champion. You can't just simply give up because you're playing against your favorite team or because you're playing against a brother or a sister. How is it with life, though? Do we, like the king who has an army advancing towards him with double the size, who sits down and calculates every move to see if he can successfully conquer that army? Are the person building that tower who sits down and calculates to make sure he has enough money, enough resources to complete the project? What are you and I doing towards our eternal salvation? Are you and I sitting down and calculating out the moves that we make? Are we looking at our life and are we saying when something comes up, when we have to make a decision, is this going to get me to heaven or not? Are we making those choices? Are we planning? Because as Christ says, what joy would there be in a crown if it's not the crown of your eternal salvation? What would it matter? All these things in life. In other words, our Lord today in our gospel, when he says that you have to hate father or mother, brothers or sisters, and even your own life, our Lord is saying you need to hate sin. Love the sinner. Hate the sin. What good would it do you to gain the whole world yet to suffer the loss of your soul? What profit would there be? What joy would there be if that's all you had? Our Lord's not saying it's in possessions. It's not in how big your house is. It's not in how fancy your car is. Are you calculating the cost? Are you looking at life, and are you looking at your eternal salvation? No, it doesn't matter if the Vikings or the Packers win. It doesn't matter if it was Venus or Serena who won the tennis championship. What matters most is your eternal salvation. Today's gospel, therefore, shows us how absolute and how radical our demands of discipleship are. Following Jesus can be much harder than winning that U.S. Open. What are you willing to give up in order to win an imperishable crown with God in heaven? What price are you willing to pay? For without God, you can do nothing. Are we calculating the cost? Are we hating the sin? How are we living our lives? Without God, you can do nothing.